Hello and welcome. Nicolas Cage portrayed one of his crazier characters in what's been a very colourful career in Ethan and Joel Coen's Raising Arizona. Cage played a small-time robber opposite Holly Hunter's local cop. They meet when he's arrested by her. They fall in love but find they can't have kids, so they kidnap one of 5 quintuplet babies. Instant family, of course, but lots of trouble. At the time, Nick already had a string of successful films on his credit list, including Fast Times at Ridgemont High, Rumblefish, Birdy and Peggy Sue Got Married. I caught up with him after he'd finished not only Raising Arizona, but his next film, Moonstruck, co-starring Cher, about whom he had some interesting comments. But first, we talked about some of the challenges he had to deal with on the Coen Brothers film, including getting his accent right and coping on set with multiple babies.
I'll just go back a little bit, because the last time we spoke was just after Birdy.
Yeah.
And what else had you done then? What else did you do after Birdy?
After Birdy, I did a movie called The Boy in Blue. And then after that, I had a long period where I wasn't working. And then did this movie with Francis called Peggy Sue Got Married.
Right. So that didn't come in until after?
Yeah, much later.
Yeah, because that's done terrific business in Australia, as you may or may not have
Birdy?
heard. Yeah. No.
Peggy Sue.
Yeah,
I heard something about that, yeah.
Excellent business.
Right.
Down there. In fact, it exceeded the projections of the releasing company.
Wow. So
they're
people
smiling.
in Australia like it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then what? Then you went on to do this one?
Yeah, then I went on to do Raising Arizona about 3 months after I'd completed the
Other ones, right.
Yeah.
Okay. So where did you come in on this project? I mean, was it from the very beginning? Or?
No. I was brought into the movie fairly late in the casting. Holly was already cast. She was... they had written the part with her in mind. And when I came along, I read the script, and I really flipped for it. And then I saw their other movie, which I thought was terrific. And then I went in, and I met with them, but I think they were hesitant at first because they felt that they weren't sure if I would be regional enough to play someone from the country or from the South, because most of the other parts I had played really suggested a more urban side. And so I auditioned for them in New York, and then I got the part. But yeah, I had to find a vocal coach, and I went to Houston for a little bit and met with the family out there and listened to how they sounded and sort of copied it.
And what was it a family that lived right out in the country, or was it in Houston itself?
Well, no, it was in Pasadena, Texas, which is about 15 miles outside of Houston. It's where Mickey Gilley came from.
Yeah, right. Because listening last night to the dialogue, I found it, and I've travelled a fair bit in America, I found it quite difficult at times to pick up all the dialogue. Did you find that?
Yeah, I had a vocal coach for about, well, during the whole shoot, really.
How did you find it? Was it a random choice? How do you get the family?
Well, I knew a girl from Oklahoma who I called up, and she said she had relatives in Houston, and she said, well, why don't you come down and have dinner with them? And so I did, and sort of videotaped them all. And they're very hospitable people down there.
Yeah. Who was the vocal coach? Not Robert Easton.
No, it was a woman named Julie Adams.
Right. The actress Julie Adams?
No.
Oh.
Maybe she is by now. I don't know.
She'd be an older woman, I think.
Oh,
She'd been around. No, right. The role was a very physical one for you.
Yeah.
Was that hard work at all?
I
mean, it's fun, obviously, which means that it's not hard work.
Yeah, it was very fun compared to the other roles I'd done. Yeah. Well, at the end of the movie, I was extremely exhausted because some of those fight scenes took like 2 weeks to shoot. You know, and flying backwards and landing on my face, and so it got a little painful at times, but I didn't get hurt.
Did you do much of the stunt work yourself?
I did some of it, yeah.
Had you done that sort of thing before? I mean, doing
No,
stunt work?
not really, because the other pictures that I had worked in were very they weren't stunt oriented, you know.
No, none of them.
No, so this was new for me.
But there were no broken bones, bruises,
no broken bones, no bruises. For a while, though, actually, at the end of the movie, I couldn't get out of bed. My back had like gone out or something. I don't know what it was. I think it might have been because I had my telescope with me, and I was like in between shots looking at the moon with my back bent over. And at the end of the movie, I was like in my bed, unable to move, and I called Joel, and he kind of got me out of bed and took me to the doctor. Carried me over there.
And you usually take your telescope on set, obviously?
No, not usually. No, this was something I got into somehow. I think it was because I was in Arizona and the sky was very clear, and there were just, at night, all the stars were just shining. See, I'm used to Los Angeles smog, so I don't see things like that.
So, how big a telescope?
A big one.
Really serious?
Well, a serious portable telescope. As serious as you can get with being portable.
Right. So you're into astronomy?
At that time, yeah. Right. It was sort of like a calming thing to be looking at the stars and whatnot.
What about the essence of the film itself? It is really quite unpredictable.
Yeah.
And there is never a point where you know exactly what is going to happen next. Is that hard to play? Because in a traditional narrative structure, you can take a character, even if you're shooting out a sequence, you can understand where a character's going, can't you?
Yeah.
But with that one, I mean, you just...
Yeah, I know. It's kind of unpredictable role. Yeah, I know what you mean. I think there's a growth to the character, though, and it's sort of come together at the end in his final dream. But he's like trying to have a family, and at the same time trying to deal with his criminal instinct, which is what makes him feel free, ironically, because that's what puts him in jail. But it's like being a cowboy on a frontier. So those two things don't go together: the stable family life and the need to be a criminal, And so between those two things, it was sort of a paradox. This character.
If somebody said to you, or you ran into somebody in London and they hadn't seen the film, and you had to describe it to them very briefly, I mean, what would you say? How would you describe it?
Wow, it's a hard one to describe because it isn't just a comedy. There's other really violent aspects to it, and there's also some poetic aspects to it. So I don't really know what genre Raising Arizona is.
I mean, ultimately, it seems to fit into a kind of some sort of level of social comment, because at all points, that's what it touches on.
That's what most people say, and I don't know if I would agree with that necessarily. I certainly understand why they would think that, and a lot of people have said that to me. But I kind of look at these people as an Arizona of the mind, so they're not really people, in my opinion, that exist. Like there's no accent in Arizona, really, and it's very subtle, but every little thing is kind of a little bit bent, Well, actually, there's moments where they're a lot bent, but yeah. So it's kind of a fantasy in a way.
But there are in what I suppose outsiders and maybe insiders too see as kind of redneck country. Like the two characters that come into the two friends.
Yeah. Oh, definitely that aspect of it. Yeah. There's.
Did you come across any of those sort of people when you were down researching?
Yeah. Yeah, I did come across some people like that, but they were in Texas, and this was Arizona. And
there is a distinct difference between.
Well, yeah, in Arizona, I found the people not to be quite as colorful. In Texas, you can actually stick a gun in your belt and walk outside and go down the street, and people don't bother you. So
that's a worry.
Like a cowboy. Well, they sort of embody a kind of American cliche, but it's not. It's kind of hard for me to say that they're really typically American because they're not really drawn from life. You know what I mean? They're kind of doing things that are a little bit bigger than life. So but there are references in the script which are very American references that people in Europe may not understand. For example, the Ozzie and Harriet show. This is a big show in America that everyone knows about, but in Europe they wouldn't know. So when my character picks up the bag of Huggies after the car ride and says, well, it ain't, she says, this ain't Family Life High, and I say, well, it ain't Ozzie and Harriet. Ozzie and Harriet is supposed to embody the whole American dream of like a family, so that won't be got out here.
But it's got in Australia, because we had the show down there. So I got that reference.
But with that respect, I think there's a lot of American idealism in it, yeah.
The physical aspects of the thing I found quite hilarious. In fact, last night I think the people who were sitting on either side of me almost had me thrown out of the cinema because of that chase with the dogs through the house and everything. I was just about off my seat. Yeah. I had tears streaming down my face. And interestingly, I almost had tears streaming down my face at the end.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that end is kind of this poetic, sentimental ending. I mean, it just sort of creeps up on you, and there it is. You go through these fights and these chases and this sort of at times broad comedy, and then there's this very beautiful poetic ending, which is what I like about the movie, because that was kind of unpredictable at that point too. The whole movie is kind of just pulls out this. It's just sort of unpredictable all the way through. You don't know what's going to happen next.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's opened in America, hasn't it? It's been
Yeah.
What was the critical reaction to it?
Very strong. They liked it.
Yeah. So it's doing well at the box office too?
It's doing pretty well. I mean, it's not what I had hoped it would do, but I mean, it is doing well. It's still playing.
Coming back to that chase sequence, because I wanted to ask you about that. Obviously, there are a number of locations, so there were quite a few setups and so on. But how long did it take you to do all of that chase sequence?
That was about 2 weeks. Most of the major fight and chase sequences took about 2 weeks each. The baby chasing sequence took 4 days, so that wasn't quite as extensive, but that was an interesting experience too.
Why?
Well, because I hadn't been very familiar with babies before, and here I was with 15 of them, and 15 stage mothers to go with them, giving me these very militant looks, like you better not drop that baby, or what are you doing over there? And I found babies really unusual, because they seem to be aware of something that I wasn't aware of. I kind of developed a certain respect for them. It was hard to really relate to them as humans.
Yeah, but were you saying that now, sort of looking back, you like kids, or if it was a matter of settling down with a lady and having a kid?
Oh no, I definitely like kids, and I think it would be a different experience if it was my own kid. But I really do like them. I just was sort of a little bit afraid of them, and a little intimidated by them, because I didn't know what they were doing or why they were doing it. It was kind of awesome, actually.
Did any of the stage mothers actually have a go at you at all?
No. I was very careful with them, but I mean, to see one baby and to look at it and be amazed by it is one thing, but to have 15 of them all doing similar things, and it was very strange.
Did you have younger brothers and sisters?
No.
All right.
No.
And no nieces, nephews, or anything like that? So you really came in unfamiliar with it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it can be daunting, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got 2 kids who are now 9 and 7. But I remember the first time, you'd think, how do you pick them up?
Yeah,
where do you pick them up?
Right.
Will they break?
It's kind of, I guess it's just instinctive, really. Yeah, you just don't hurt a baby. And that was one of the things that Joel thought about, I think, in the casting of the part, because he didn't want, at any time in the picture, for the audience to think that the child was in danger. He kind of see, I had ideas for the character which were a little bit more dangerous, and he felt that if I had kidnapped a baby and I was slightly more dangerous, the audience would have lost sympathy with the character because they would have felt that the baby would be hurt. You know.
Yeah. Well, I think that's good judgment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, in that chase sequence in the middle of the film, though, you begin to worry just what the baby was going through.
That's true. With the car stopping right behind it, I mean, you know, and then the motorcycle guy picking the baby up and putting him on the handlebars was a little scary at times.
Of course, reality is
is
something far removed from the illusion of what you can do.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's quite an amazing film. What about since then? Have you shot another film? Or
Yeah, actually, I finished a movie about a couple months ago, and it was with Norman Jewison and Cher. And this is in New York that I shot it, and in Toronto. It's called Moonstruck. It's a romantic comedy.
Right.
Yeah.
What's the plot, basically, without giving too much away?
It's kind of a convoluted plot. There's a lot of stories going on in it, but it follows this one woman named Loretta, which is played by Cher, and she is going to get married to Danny Aiello, who plays a character named Mr. Johnny. And Danny Aiello wants Cher to invite me, I'm his brother, to the wedding. Except that I don't like my brother, so when she goes to invite my character, I get very jealous that he's getting married and I'm not, and then whatever happens. I wind up falling in love with her, and on top of it, I play a baker with a wooden hand whose hand got cut off in a bread
You play
slicer.
two characters?
No.
Oh, this is what you are.
Same guy, so it's kind of a...
Right.
Yeah.
She's quite an amazing lady.
Oh, she's very pleasant to be around. You know, she's, I mean, it's hard to really imagine, you know, she's such a famous star, really. You know, everyone in America knows who she is. And yet she's so, at times, childlike. When I met her, she was very exuberant, almost like a teenager. It was kind of pleasant to see that.
Yeah, well, she's been out to Australia a couple of times,
Yeah.
both for films and also just touring out there, and I've met her on 3 or 4 occasions.
Did you notice that about her?
Yes, I find her a terrific lady. She's really dead straight. I mean, exactly what she's thinking is what she says to you, and so there's no bullshit at all, which I think is nice, and that's what Australians are generally like that.
Yeah.
And she's down to earth in everything that she does. I mean, calls a spade a spade. And she's just got this very young quality about her. So she was obviously very easy to work with.
Yes. Yes.
Great. So who's got that film?
MGM.
Right.
So that'll be coming out in December, I think.
Right. Any unusual sequences in that at all?
Well, there are 3. Well, see, Norman Jewison did Jesus Christ Superstar, and he did Fiddler on the Roof, and I think he...
Agnes of God.
And Agnes of God. He did, but what I'm referring to is those 2 pictures because he seems to be very interested in opera. And in this picture, Moonstruck, the character I play is kind of obsessed with opera. And opera is kind of throughout the whole film. There's like a Puccini score, and 2 of the monologues were written with extremely operatic builds to them. So Norman was kind of directing like a conductor, really. I mean, it was a different experience for me because I was thinking of crescendos and like diminuendos, you know, as I choreographed the monologues and stuff. So
long monologues?
Yeah, fairly long.
Really?
Yeah.
What, like 3 minutes, 4 minutes?
Yeah, 3 minutes.
Gee.
Yeah, not quite as long as Birdy's monologues, but you know,
still ones that really put the test on an actor.
Yeah.
And what, are they done to another character, or are they thought pieces? Or?
Well, most of the characters in the movie have lengthy dialogue. You know, this particular character is not throughout the whole piece, so. The 3 or 4 times that you see me are really kind of lengthy monologues.
So Cher is the star of the film?
Yes.
And then you and Danny sort of equal billing?
No, Cher's the star of the movie. I play this kind of crazy love interest thing, and then there's Julie Bavasso, and there's a whole bunch of New York stage actors in the picture, and I can't really remember.
No, that's all right.
Now.
No,
but actually, the other thing that you might be interested in is that it was written by a New York playwright whose name is John Patrick Shanley. Are you familiar with that name?
I do. I can't place it though.
Yeah. Well, he's been doing very well lately in New York.
Right.
Yeah. He's got a particular style to his writing.
How long before it comes out in America?
Until it won't be released until after The Witches of Eastwick, I think.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so it'll probably be around, hopefully, December.
Right.
So it's a way off. Yeah.
Right.
Nick is still working hard these days and has 3 films coming up in the next 12 months. Renfield, in which he plays Dracula, The Old Way, and The Retirement Plan. Now, for those who were unaware or had forgotten, Nick is the nephew of the Godfather director Francis Ford Coppola. Having changed his name early in his career to avoid accusations, he might be playing on the family name to get roles. And of course, he was briefly married to Lisa Marie Presley. In fact, he's been married 5 times over the years. Busy boy.